What's up, y'all? I got another horror dubstep tutorial sound design thing for you today. This one I'm going to be breaking down the two sustain basses that I think are the coolest patches in the track that I just released called Zazas. It's from the Hereditary EP that I just recently put out. You can find that in the description if you want to go check it out. And so with that being said, I'll go ahead and play it, and then we'll talk about the two patches that I wanted to break down. So here we go.
Hello?
Dad, I don't like this.
So we're going to be focusing on these two main sustain basses. One of them I called Trauma, the other one I called Punish. That's the first one. It kind of increases intensity, but just is this little creepy, weird type sound. And then the next one, Punish, is a lot more aggressive, more intense of a sound. So for my first patch, the Trauma sustain, I wanted to do something that was like a little bit, so I wanted to make something that was scarier. It wasn't just a sustain bass. It wasn't something that I've heard 1,000 times. It was more of like a textural, creepy feeling sound. So the first thing I did was pitched it way down. This is down 48 semitones, so 4 octaves, and then another 12 semitones, so all the way to -60 for the first oscillator. And it sounds like this with no effects. So then I add unison to this, right? And it's just almost like a pitch dropping thunky type sound. Then with unison, if you have headphones or you can hear in both ears right now, it's almost like this thunkiness is now being moved around to a bunch of different places in the ear placement, in the left and right channels. Then my second piece to this one's mono. It's only one thing, but it's the same principle. It's this repeated tone here. A lot higher up on that one, though. So then I mix those both together. And you just kind of have this thunky, weird textural layer. I put some fold back distortion on it, and this is what makes it start sounding like the actual sound that we have. Right, and if I bring my vector and my oscilloscope or my spectrum back, we have this like creepy, scratchy, nails on chalkboard type sound that we're starting out here that's, again, popping all in left, right, you know, it's going from ear to ear. It sounds really unstable. Kind of going with that, like, I want this to be a scary instead of just like your standard like sustain bass sound. Then I add a filter to it, taking all those low frequencies out, and this filter is being pitched, being moved from low to high. I also forgot to mention I have a pitch drop on this that's going from down to up, so it starts even lower, as you can see here, fading up into that. And then I added a band bump that goes down and sweeps past this resonance point. So then let's add our effects in phase plant one at a time. I add that reverb with the size change that makes it, right, if I turn it all the way up without the size change, it just is really screamy. And then with the size change, there's some movement to the initial size of the room that makes it almost like it moves in the beginning, or there's a pitch change to the reverb. Then we do a distortion, really warming it up a lot. There's some stereo spread to this part, right? It's kind of giving it a weird difference in the left and right ear. Then I add an ensemble, which is washing it out, making it sound a little more chaotic. And then I'm cutting the lows some more, boosting the mids, boosting the highs a little bit. So we have that type sound, right? Then I put it through an OTT, bringing the lows down, mids and highs up. And because I've gated my reverb here with this, I don't have to have this really short, you know, I don't have to kill the tail with this time switch. I can leave it nice and short. And then I have an EQ, really boosting my highs and making space for the other elements that I have that kind of sit right here in the track. And then I have a reverb that I do some things with that I'll explain later, and a V-clip. And that's really the basis of this sound, right? If you could listen to this one, which I had to remake because I had already rendered it, compared to the original, which is this. It's damn near identical with one small difference that I can hear, which is you hear like a swelling to this, right? And with this one, my reverb swell is just not as good as the original one was, or it's different in some way that I couldn't really parse. So as you can see here, I'm taking my wetness on this and sweeping it in with this reverb automation here. As you can see, it's kind of like bringing the energy of it towards the end of it. And with the last one, it also decays out, so. And you may be asking, whoa, that sounds way different than what you just played. And the main reason for that, or the only reason for that, is, as you can see here, that's the starting notes. And then once we get to the second set of notes, the second repetition, the higher that I bring this, the more like a standard synth that it sounds, or a standard sustain. Because remember, like, the main difference with this patch is everything is pitched so far that it, like, glugs around, and the distortion gives it its tone, right? So if I put it way up here, oh, that sounds cool, but, you know, in a different way. It is still kind of a weird sound. Yeah, that's getting a little bit more towards your typical sustain synth, but, you know, at this point, adds a lot of intensity. In context, I think it works really well.
And I don't like this.
Right, raising up.
And I don't like this.
Right, I don't like this, and then it kind of gets a little worse, as it were, sonically and tonally. So then the reverb sweep happens. Just kind of gives some space for the rest of these elements to sit in. And I'll talk a little bit more about why this feels scary to me and not just like your standard dubstep, even though it's, you know, not that different. I did a couple things to make it a little scarier sounding. We'll go into the punish patch first, so this one. And this one I used another good trick that I found out, which is if you want things to sound scary, let me just do the same exact process I did with this other one. So I'll turn everything off. And if you want something to sound scary, again, I have this same dispersed saw layer. Right, it's doing the same thing. I'm not going to turn the post effects off for this one, just to make it go a little quicker. It's the same principle, though. This would be if I added a wavetable and had it harmonically in sync. And what I mean by that is that's like your standard sustain bass style. And I've just kind of pitched it up a good amount. And that's just realistically to fit with the track. But that's not what I used for this. What I actually used was a wavetable that instead of pitching it up with the semitones, I use this shift knob. Also, there's unison on it, so just note that. But I'll turn the unison off. And so the difference here is instead of being pitched and in tune with it, it does what a frequency shifter does. So it's shifting it and it says actually right here in the bottom, I'm glad I noticed this. Oscillator tuning as a fixed offset. So instead of pitching it up by the correct amount of semitones, which semitones is not a frequency number, it's a relative to fundamental number. This is shifting it by a frequency number. So 31.78 hertz, I guess, would be what it is. Is it hertz? What are these called? Yeah, hertz. It's still playing at the same key right here, right? This is still changing, but it's also shifting it up. So it just always stays off, out of key with what's being played. And like the lower that I go, right? The higher that I go, that shift seems less noticeable. The lower that I go, it doesn't even feel like it's doing anything. And that's because down here, 50 to 100 is like a whole octave, whereas up here, you know, 2K to 5K, you know, that's a whole 3,000, whereas down here it's, you know, only 50 hertz, right? I hope that kind of explains that a little bit. I've talked about this before, but it's just a good way to have your stuff sound off key in a cool way. So then I take that, send it through some filtering, distortion, and that's where the distortion really just turns it crazy, right? We have the fold back, drive all the way up, and it's just disgusting, right? Screechy, terrible, not pleasant. Now bringing this high pass up with the distortion, gives it a growly sound. No growly, yes growly. That adds a little bit more, just sweeping the band. Same thing as the other preset that I just showed. Now I can kind of move these upwards. And then I have the Cypher Choral, which is a great preset that was in the original set. So if you have Snap Heap, you have this preset. It'll be in Legacy now. But get the Cypher Choral. Oh, I don't even use it. It's a great sound though. So anything that you want to just sound terribly washed out, use the Cypher chorus on. So then I have a saturation, distorting it some more, and just a little EQ band there. Now I will say I've had all these effects on the whole time, but it's the same principle. Very little time, a little bit of depth, similar EQ curve, reverb again sweeping into it, and we're doing the same thing as the first one there. And then if you look, there's some music theory reasons why this track sounds different, right? Right, that's my sound that I have just kind of recreated. And then if I play the original, I start doing different stuff in the second half of this. So one of the reasons this track sounds scary is because I'm not tonally matching my subs to my sustain basses in part of this track, right? In the beginning, it's one octave down, and then I bring it that octave up, but it is matching my sub. As you can see, the sub is hidden back there under the trauma patch. I named it Trauma because the movie is about trauma. It's not, you know, nothing. I'm not trying to trigger nobody's shit with that. It's just, you know, part of the Hereditary movie. And so then in the second half here, what we do, god damn, I'm fucking dying. My ears are so itchy. Oh. This punish sound does not match the sub. So if I play this and you see the difference in these, I'll scoot these up so you can see we have that there. Right, matching on those first two. Right, then that one doesn't match there. Then this one's up an octave. Then this one's off again, right? And there may be some kind of music theory interval reason that this works like the way it does to my ear. But the fact that it's frequency shifted instead of like pitch shifted, I think is what made me pick these notes more, right? Like it's just kind of makes a weird relationship with each of these subs, especially considering it's so cut, you know, the lows are so cut out of it. Any note would probably work with the high end being what's present here. Then the other reason that I think this track ends up kind of having a scary feel to it is we have a big wall of sound, and I'll pull this in here for this, but a bunch of contrasting elements that contrast frequency wise, right? So we start.
Hello?
Right, this one's low. It's actually a really full synth, and then our little filler here.
Hello?
Is all creepy high end. Then this one's like sub heavy here, so, and it has this scary sweep. Right, I've shown that in a tutorial. Then this here is just all over the place, right? Right, it's like mid-high. And then like dirty all over the place. Then this one's like super sharply tonal, so as you can see, it's like just those frequencies and they're like heavily, you know, messed with.
Dad, I don't like this.
Again, we're doing some scary sweeping in here, so just trying to tonally contrast everything that's going on to where it's not like heavy synth with a big full spectrum into another heavy synth with a big full spectrum. It's kind of similar to the way that left field bass producers will like have different parts of the spectrum blocked out for each little section that they're working on. So I'm going to kind of speed this through here.
Dad, I don't like this.
Then the vocal breaks are obviously going to add some scariness because it's just quotes from a horror movie. And then as you can notice here, like we have a different horror sweep on every section, you know, and then including these, right? Then of course you have the metallic hits giving this whole thing
Hello?
a rhythm. Then before I end this one, I will just say escalation. That's the main thing that makes this track get scary and stay scary, right? We do this for a while, then we pitch it up an octave. And then we go hectic with the sustains, and the metallic hits get way closer together. Right? Also, the sub starts doing bends. Man, I feel like I'm really over-explaining this. So with that, y'all, I think I'm going to go ahead and end this one. If you watched to this point in the video, you know what time it is. Thank you for watching. It's time to spin the wheel of what the fuck is free on this one. Let me move this out of the way. So I am, of course, since you stuck to this point, again, going to be hiding shit in the description. It'll be the Hereditary Trauma patch, the Hereditary Punish patch. So I'm going to be hiding these two somewhere in the description. Go find them. Go download the presets or whatever. Thank you for watching, and I will see y'all in the next one.